But it depends what the value of the U.S. dollar is. And the time may come, and it's already true in other parts of the world, it's not going to be priced in U.S. dollars anymore. It'll be priced in whatever the BRICS currency is, and because this current financial system is going to fail. And the best buy on planet Earth right now is physical silver in hand.
This is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for August 26th through September 2nd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we have the famous 1-ounce gold Krugerrand at just $60 over spot. Next, we have the favorite bullion coin of Europe, backdated silver Philharmonics at just $3.10 over spot. Next, we have compelling pricing on various pre-33 American gold coins. For current pricing on these or any of our other products, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're privileged to have this distinguished returning guest, Ed Steer, a longtime observer and analyst of precious metals markets and advocates for free markets, is with us here again on Liberty and Finance. Ed, thank you for joining us this Wednesday, August 28th, 2024.
Thanks for having me on, and greetings to all your listeners.
The last time that we had you on, you shared with us a rather remarkable chart of concentrated short positions on the COMEX market that was very revealing, and you talked to us about how chronically it has been looking like that. You've just shared with us an updated version of that, and I had some specific questions about it that I wanted to drill in for the benefit of myself, but also of all of our viewers and subscribers. And with your help, if you could help us understand what it is that you were the big takeaway that you're saying that this the story that this chart tells, and why we need to be paying attention to that, and how it helps us understand what's going on that's affecting the market price of gold, silver, platinum, palladium in the U.S.
Well, the grand overview of it is this, and it's always been the same, and Ted Butler was harping on it for like 20, 30 years. And I'm going to say it again and repeat him because it's absolutely the truth. You know, when you look at this chart, 8 traders, all of them bullion banks or investment houses, are short more than 50%, in some places, in the case of gold, over 60% of the entire open interest in the COMEX futures market. These guys all trade one for all and all for one. You know, it's a collusive commercial short position, where these 8 traders, if you look at silver on the chart at the far right-hand side, because it's the most obvious, the green bar shows the short position of the 8 largest traders, and the red bar beside it shows the short position of the 4 largest traders. And the 5 through 8 is the difference between the red and the green bar. It's very simple. This chart has looked like this for the last 25, 30 years. Nothing has changed. Silver's been on the right. Platinum is next, gold, and then palladium. The odd time palladium falls into 3rd or 4th place because cocoa or whatever gets in there. But silver, except for 2 weeks back in 2008 or whatever, when palladium went on a tear, has been in the number 1 spot and on the right, nailed to the right-hand side of that chart for as long as that chart's been in existence. And that's the takeaway, is that 8 traders, all of them bullion banks or investment houses, all working in collusion, are working to control the prices of key commodities, which I call the big 6, the 4 precious metals, copper, and West Texas Intermediate crude. If you can control those, then you can control the entire commodity complex price. And that's been going on for generations. When you're an empire like the U.S., you want control of the sea, the sky, the financial system, the dollar, you name it. You want control of absolutely everything, and the control of commodity prices is just a subset of that. And what you're seeing here is the U.S. empire in action in this particular facet of the financial system, controlling the price of precious metals. And it's not just the U.S. Britain is heavily involved, and I'm surprised to learn in the last year or so just how involved Canadian banks are as well in keeping the prices of precious metals lower. It's amazing to watch the East versus the West, and this is one of the things that that the BRICS conference it will probably have something to say about. I know that they've been moaning about it for years now, that the West controls commodity prices and they want to wrest that control away. And that control is what you're seeing in this one simple chart boiled down to the 8 largest traders.
We've heard for years from Rick Rule, former CEO of Sprott Asset Management, that less than 0.5% of all the investments that people in the U.S. have, and that covers everything from stocks, bonds, bank accounts, real estate, everything, only less than 0.5% is either in precious metals or precious metals related stocks, such as mining stocks, that sort of thing. But since COVID started, there's been a beginning of an awakening where we've had 5 to 6 times the normal volume of new clients calling up and saying, what do I need to do to protect myself? And it seems that the obviousness of the destruction of their purchasing power of their earnings, savings, and retirement through debasement of the currency and currency inflation is waking more and more people up. So it's a very common question that I would call them newbies are asking is, why in the world is this happening? Why what you're describing here of the apparent control of the silver price, for example, or the gold price through futures manipulation? Can you talk to us about why this would be happening? You mentioned empires want to control everything, but why these particular things in this way?
The other part to this is the fact that all fiat currency systems throughout all of recorded history, as every listener knows, have, without no exception, failed. The current fiat system that we've been on since Nixon temporarily took us off the gold standard in 1971 is bound to fail as well. It's an absolute lead pipe cinch that it will fail at some point, and we can see the signs of it everywhere by the central bank printing just to keep things going in place right now. If they weren't printing as I keep saying, the world's financial, economic, and monetary system would be a smoldering ruin within 5 business days. And what Rick has said is correct. I mean, everybody's saying, just a minute. And you can see it in the central banks have been buying gold for the last 15 years or whatever. Everybody's quietly heading, or at least the smart money is quietly heading into precious metals in general and commodities in particular, because they can see this coming. I mean, you can just see it everywhere. You just take a look at the U.S. deficit right now, $35 trillion and rising, and before the year is over, it'll be up over $36 trillion. I mean, what's this, August? It might even be 37. They just got to keep printing more and more money to keep this in place, this financial system in place. And sooner or later, it will fail. And when it does fail, it will fail spectacularly. And we're in the end game right now. We're in the 9th inning, somewhere in the 9th inning right now, whether it's the top of the 9th or the bottom of the 9th. But as Rick said, more and more people are starting to head in this direction. And so I'd say we're closer to the bottom of the 9th inning than the top. But the fiat currency system as we know it, the U.S. dollar and every other currency is going to fail. And the BRICS Plus conference that's going to take place in Russia in October is a desperate attempt for them to come up with their own currency, backed hopefully by precious metals and gold, is their attempt to wrest themselves away from the failing fiat currency system that the West has been perpetrating since 1971, and they're fed up with it. So it's, buy yourself a bucket of popcorn and a bottle of wine or a 6-pack of beer and sit back and watch this thing and hope that you have enough precious metals to survive it.
So help us one more time with the connecting the dots between the imminent and, whether it's imminent or not, it's inevitable failure of the Western fiat currency systems, which includes the US dollar and the British pound, etc., versus this phenomenon of concentrated short positions of metals on the exchange. What's the connection there specifically so people can understand?
Okay, well, the connection is very simple. It's the major bullion banks. Mostly U.S., like there's J.P. Morgan. Everybody likes to beat on J.P. Morgan. There's Citigroup, Wells Fargo, and I know there's another one. I just can't remember. Bank of America is the big one, and there's also Standard Chartered in Britain, and there's another bank. HSBC. Those are the 6 or 7 U.S. and British banks. This is mostly an Anglo-American phenomena. Okay, there's a French bank in there once in a while, PNB Paribas. And there's also I'm surprised that Scotia Bank was involved for a long time before they lost a lot of money and got out of it. And there's the Bank of Montreal and the Royal Bank of Canada. They've also got a small short position but it's the banking system and trying to keep everybody away out of commodity prices. And it's just part of the Anglo-American empire that's been going on, and that the BRICS is trying to contain. And when you see 8 traders, it's those entities: Citigroup, J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America, and Standard Chartered, and probably a couple of commodity trading houses as well that are up to their eyeballs in this. These 8 traders, all trading in collusion, all acting in collusion, are there to prevent the obvious currency debasement from showing up in commodity prices. And it's a fight that's been going on for the last 53 years.
Okay. So the analogy I'm making in my mind is there was an article on Zero Hedge about 2 or 3 years ago during the pit of the COVID crisis, where it was called The Importance of Zero. And what they were talking about is, in an era of official lying, official deception by those in power, and suppression of the truth, it's absolutely essential that zero truth tellers be allowed to persist. And there we saw deplatforming of numerous independent media journalists and analysts and investigators. We saw stripping of credentials of medical doctors. We saw all kinds of epithets tied to the names of formerly respected and very well referenced, etc., analysts and so on, who because they would not toe the line on the official narrative. So, if what I'm hearing you say is that it's important that no little child shout, "The emperor has no clothes on," because that would cause a loss of confidence and a flock for the exits, essentially bank runs or whatever, as people try to withdraw out of the risky fiat currency system that's based on nothing but confidence, and say, I don't want my future to be destroyed. I want to have a future. I want real assets, and flocking into that's a source of containment or prevention, or kicking the can down the road so that awakening by the masses doesn't happen. Am I following you there? That's the idea, is making commodities in general and precious metals in specific appear unattractive as safe harbors.
Oh, that's exactly what's happening. They're trying to keep everybody on the paper asset side of the street, whether it be in stocks or bonds or whatever. They want everybody buying the Dow and the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ and their equivalents overseas. It's the attempt to keep as many people on the paper asset side of the street versus running over to the hard asset side of the street. Like I said, it's a fight that's been going on since the U.S. took us off the last vestiges of the gold standard. But the problem is that it's now becoming obvious to even more and more people. And at some point, this paper system will fail either by design or by circumstance. And one day we're going to wake up and things are going to be entirely different. And only the people that have wisely purchased commodities, mostly the precious metals, and held a lot of it in hand, not in paper form, will be the ones that survive this. But this is a fight for power and control as the current system fails and whatever new one they've got cooked up comes into existence, and all will be standing when this paper thing crashes is those that have physical commodities of one type or another.
Now, in the face of this reality, and this correlates with what I've been told, because we have a very, very small minority of clients who say, well, most of the clients who call us say, my family thinks I'm crazy. I'm a black sheep in my family. My financial advisor thinks I'm crazy. He says I should just stay invested in the market, buy the dips, hold long 60-40 stocks and bond portfolio. And he just laughs at me and says, gold's a pet rock. It doesn't pay a dividend, blah, blah, blah. And yet we have a very small minority of those who say, my financial advisor understands this and he actually recommends that I do get some precious metals. This is part of what we're describing. The problem has been quite effective. It seems that the masses don't have enough information to make the decision, don't feel confident making decisions on their own. They go through their retail financial plan, and the financial planners are generally, I don't know if it's 99.5%, maybe it is, are telling people, no, stay away from the precious metals. They don't go anywhere. They're a lost cause. Any comments from you as far as that contribution to the ignorance and the misdirection that people are truly, what I'm concerned about is the moms and pops across our country and everybody's little endowment funds or their retirement funds or whatever that are exposed to catastrophic losses because they're being misled and they're not being told how they need to protect themselves.
Well, basically all the banks, have I know in Canada here, CIBC, I work through Wood Gundy here. So every banking institution has their own mortgage brokerage account attached to it. I'm not sure it's the same in the U.S., but I'm sure it is. But all have huge stakes in the paper financial system. And when you're a broker, they teach you to sell people stocks, and it's all part of the grand brainwashing to keep people on the paper side of the street. And of course, they're going to start with the financial advisors first. And it's all part of this con game that's been going on for the last 50 plus years. But sooner or later, okay, like you said, the people that can see with their own eyes what's coming. And of course, everybody thinks they're nuts. But those are the people in the end that are the only ones that are going to be saved. The whole system is working to keep you going down the straight and narrow path of paper. But this is a time when you have to follow your own instincts and say, no, I don't think I will. I'm going to follow my own path, and those are the only people that are going to get saved in the end.
Boy, I have to make a couple more analogies here. One is a very personal. My wife and I are chronic Lyme survivors, Lyme disease, and we got almost no help from the modern medical institution, but we got a Lyme literate doctor who is an integrative doc. He understood herbal and other remedies to get us off of antibiotics that were, the only cure that we were being given, and realized that we have to be treated long-term, that sort of thing. So and a lot of people have been through, as we know, the last 4 years have been about another certain named illness that people have been told, do this, don't do that, wear 2 or 3 of these things or don't, and take this experimental treatment, etc. And they've had to seek elsewhere to get alternative viewpoints, which have been strongly suppressed. It reminds me of how, when you talk about marching to a different drummer and only those who do will be saved, it reminds me of what must have been the reality for Noah and his sons building the ark with the impending flood coming, and how they must have looked ridiculous to most of their countrymen, their onlookers, who probably ridiculed them. So in the face of that, there's supposed to be oversight, and there's supposed to be rules against these concentrated short positions and market manipulations and that sort of thing. Yet you say this has been going on for over half a century. I guess by analogy, what we just saw happening in the medical arena, we've certainly heard reasoned accusations and studied accusations by very well credentialed both doctors and political figures that there's a conflict of interest and captive regulatory agencies which are populated by and get approximately half their income from the industry they're supposed to be regulating, et cetera, et cetera. So what's the reality of the regulation that's supposed to be going on to protect the people from these kinds of manipulations in the precious metals market?
Well, the laws are certainly on the books, and if you go on the CFTC and look, it's there. They're all there, but they've never been enforced in the precious metals or any. I'm not familiar with any other commodity. I'm just familiar with the floor pressure of the big 6. And the fact of the matter is that the rules are completely flaunted, and like you said, there's regulatory capture involved here too. But the fact of the matter is the CFTC is sitting there, basically been told that you will ignore this, and that's precisely what they do. But it's just like everything else, like this disease you were talking about, whether it be your own or the other one that we can't mention. It's a way of brainwashing the people into thinking that they should be doing this when their own hearts and souls tell them they should be doing something else. And the CFTC has been willfully negligent. All the major bullion banks in the world have been sued or found guilty of price management in the precious metals by spoofing or bid pulling or bid rigging or whatever. They've all been found guilty. They've all been fined for this, but it still goes on. So you can see that the law of the land is giving lip service to this. I mean, it's unfortunate to say, but the judiciary is just as compromised as everybody else, and this is going to continue until the system falls apart. And like I said, it is so obvious to the BRICS nations, the countries in which is most of the world now, except for the West, is running as fast as they can away from everything that they're looking at right now in the paper world. Because I remember it was 3 or 4 months ago. One of these Saudi princes, I think it was Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates, came out and made the blasphemous statement that he was tired of the COMEX controlling the price of their commodities in the paper market and the COMEX futures market. I mean, when I saw that, I certainly posted it in my column, but that's not the first time that somebody from over in the Gulf has said, we're tired of being controlled by the paper market. And that's not just happened in oil, it's happened in other commodities where it's come out by some of the members that have joined BRICS or are already members of BRICS. They say, look, we have to wrest control of commodity prices away from New York. So this is not a phenomenon that is not known. It is not known by the masses because the press won't, like as you've already pointed out, won't talk about the press, the government, the banking system, the financial system, the Federal Reserve, the central banks of the world. They're fighting this collapse hammer and tongue. And you'll excuse me for thinking, but this war in Ukraine and the one about to blow up in the Middle East are all related in an attempt. This is the East versus the West, Samuel Huntington's clash of civilizations taking place right before our eyes, and one of the casualties of it will be the current financial system. So everything that you see out there today is all connected one way or another. The failing American empire, the rise of the BRICS, and not just the American empire, the Anglo-American empire, because the BRICS are still there, even though their empire disappeared a long time ago. They're still very influential. So it's the West versus the East. And you're seeing, and that chart you're looking at, the foreign aid traders, all Western bullion banks, all Western trading houses, trying to keep the third world countries, South and Central America, Africa, trying to keep the commodity prices lower and keep, countries poor. Simple as that, to feed the empire, whether it be British or American. And right now, the price suppression scheme is ground zero for keeping everybody in line, and that's one of the things that the BRICS is hoping to end at their meeting in Kazan in Russia in October.
That's what I wanted to go to next, is that in addition to them meeting and talking about trade settlement currencies and that sort of thing, they've also established physical exchanges for precious metals, either in Shanghai, Moscow, etc. So this phenomenon you've been describing about suppression, the Anglo and British being able to do this in paper futures contracts on the COMEX and the LBMA, if the rest of the world, the BRICS side of the world, is turning away from this and saying we do not want to be have the prices of our commodities controlled by the West anymore, are we already seeing a divergence of physical precious metals prices between the East and the West, or do you expect that to be accentuated in the future? And what are you looking for in that regards?
Well, the big thing is silver. Silver, now we'll segue into that. for the last, I had a chart in my column about, I'll put it up again in my column within the next month. There is a premium of about between 10 and 11% over the world price, over the U.S. price in the market that Shanghai is paying for silver. So you can, and the Chinese are not stupid. Okay, they know perfectly well that silver is in a structural deficit from which it'll never recover. We're in the fourth year of it, and they want to attract all the silver they possibly can to themselves. And India's onto this too. I mean, it's not just China. But because of this premium, it's more attractive to buy silver and send it to China than it is to sell it in U.S. dollars. So you can see the thin edge of the wedge starting. And this has been going on for a while. There was a premium in gold. It's not there right now. But the fact of the matter is that, China and India have been buyers of gold. Either the citizens have been buying it or the government's been buying it for decades now, many decades. And the other proof in the pudding, of course, is what I've already spoken about, and others have as well, is that the world's central banks, countries themselves have been snapping up gold here since 2008 or whenever it's been. And this last quarter, the second quarter, was another record. So you got to start being your own central bank, which lots of people have spoken of before. And China's just asymptomatic of what's happening in the world as we slide away from the Anglo-American system and the paper currency system that's been in existence since forever, all our adult lives anyway. And this is all coming to an end. You don't see it in the press. They don't talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. Like I said, they want to keep everybody in paper until this thing finally does blow up. And but in China, you can see it. In India, you can see it. They're importing huge amounts of gold, and especially silver. It's amazing to see how much silver is disappearing into countries like India. I have a story in my inbox, which is going in my column tomorrow. Somebody in India, somebody way up in the financial system, India is probably going to double their silver imports, in 2025 versus 2024. I mean, where's that silver going to come from? Right now, we're running a deficit of 215 million ounces a year, and that's coming out of J.P. Morgan's private stash. As Ted Butler said way back a couple of years ago, and was still saying it. J.P. Morgan accumulated 1+ billion ounces of silver during that big sell-off that started back in 2011. It's a long time ago now, whenever it was. And that's where all the silver is coming to feed this deficit. This deficit has been going on for 4+ years, and they only have a finite amount of it. And China knows perfectly well what's going on, and that's why they have this silver premium, because they're draining silver out of the West and going to the East. The Russians and the Chinese have been onto the price management scheme of the precious metals for going on 20 years now, and they're using it to their advantage to accumulate as much as they can. And the whole world is heading that direction at the central bank level. If they're doing it, everybody else should be doing it too, and I hope they are.
Well, that's one of the lessons we keep learning at some expense over time, over history, is the little man is the last to be informed. By the time the fire alarm gets pulled, all the fat cats have already gotten, quietly exited the casino and are whisked away, and it's the little man that's left holding the bag, the taxpayer, the earner saver, middle class and lower class. In this case, do you perceive this as still an opportunity for those? You already said that only those who have real assets will escape, the coming wrath of the collapse of the paper Western system financially. Do you believe that the current environment is still represents a subsidized opportunity at these suppressed prices for people to do just that, to acquire physical assets at these reduced prices before this east-west arbitrage becomes so obvious to everyone that they realize that the new price is going to be whatever price is set on the physical exchanges in the BRICS countries and not by the paper manipulations in the West?
No, absolutely. This is particularly true of silver. Gold at $2,500 an ounce. I look at a coin of $2,500 for an ounce of gold. That is going to be cheap someday too. Nobody knows what the true free market prices of precious metals or anything else are because they've been suppressed for the last 50 plus years. When this thing blows up finally or melts down, whatever you want to call it, we're going to see shiny new prices for everything, whether it be rubber or cocoa or sugar or tea or wheat or oats or steel or whatever. We're going to see an inflationary explosion because of the repricing of commodities. Okay, the whole entire commodity complex is going to get repriced. And this will be what they call the Great Reset. I don't care if it's going to be Klaus Schwab's Great Reset, but we're going to have a financial reset at some point. And it's the prices of commodities and precious metals that are going to really scream because they've been suppressed for the last 50 plus years. And silver is the most egregious of all. If you go back and look at its history going back 50 or 100 years, it's just absolutely amazing. And at under $30 an ounce, silver is screaming. But I remember, I'll give you a personal story. My coin dealer in Edmonton. I remember standing in there and arguing over whether he would sell me a 5-ounce silver round for less than $35, which was Canadian dollars, which is $5 an ounce or $7 an ounce. And I thought I was overpaying at $7 an ounce. Now we're at 30 or at 35 or 36 in Canadian dollars. So, it's already gone up a bunch, but we haven't seen anything yet. The price of silver, and Keith Neumeyer at First Majestic is absolutely correct. And I got matter of fact, I even got the T-shirt to prove it. It's triple-digit silver that Keith sent me. Is that we're going to see a silver price that's just going to absolutely spin your head around. It's going to be some rather impressive 3-digit price, and my estimate is going to be somewhere north of 180 US an ounce, or 200, well over 200. Depends what the value of the US dollar is. And the time may come, and it's already true in other parts of the world, it's not going to be priced in US dollars anymore. It'll be priced in whatever the BRICS currency is, and because this current financial system is going to fail. And the best buy on planet Earth right now is physical silver in hand.
Ed, for people who want to follow your analysis on an ongoing basis, how should they get connected?
Just Google my name, Ed Steer, S-T-E-E-R, Ed Steer Gold, Silver, and my website will pop up. There's a tab on there where you can read a free copy of my column. And if that's the sort of information that's interest to you, because it's mostly fact-based, that's the sort of information that you want about the precious metals. It costs $100 US for about 260 columns a year, which I consider to be dirt cheap. And you can sign up if you're interested.
We've been speaking with Ed Steer. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss out a single interview with Ed or any of our other guests, make sure you're on our mailing list at libertyandfinance.com. Just go to Liberty and Finance, all spelled out, all one word, libertyandfinance.com. Put in your email address, click submit. Make sure you confirm on the confirming email. You'll get one email in your inbox per day with our latest interviews and all of our weekly specials. Ed, on behalf of all of our viewers and guests, thank you for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Well, thanks for having me on, Dunnigan.
This is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin weekly specials for August 26th through September 2nd, 2024, while supplies last. First, we have the famous 1-ounce gold Krugerrand at just $60 over spot. Next, we have the favorite bullion coin of Europe, backdated silver Philharmonics at just $3.10 over spot. Next, we have compelling pricing on various pre-33 American gold coins. For current pricing on these or any of our other products, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.